Hello, I'm Reverend Onyx, and I'm coming to you again from Lady of the Circle in the Oaks. Today I'm going to address the third part of the five mystic secrets. Now, before we get into it, we're going to be starting to pick up the pace on some of these videos. I'm also going to be doing videos interspersed in there with some other topics as well that have come to me that I'll be addressing. So just stay tuned and watch what comes out. Comment, please. Feel free to share these videos with anyone you want, anyone you're led to share them with. Remember always, always, always that what you're seeing here or what you're hearing here from me is my point of view right now. That doesn't mean that 2 days down the road I won't change my mind, because our beliefs are constantly evolving and constantly changing as we encounter things throughout our lives. And just because I say something, please don't take my word for it. Think. I've said in so many of my videos, I don't want you to think like me. I just want you to think. Now, we're going to get into the third of the five mystic secrets today. We're going to talk about life. We talked about knowledge first, and then we talked about God. Today we're going to talk about life. Now, God created life. God created all life, even yours, mine, all life. It was not a botched job, okay? God cannot botch the job. God is perfect. Now, the very first thing that must be understood as we go into this is that life is eternal. The vessel will die, yes, the body will die, but the soul is immortal. It will not die. It cannot die. It is eternal. It is immortal. We've always known this, okay? We've always known this. Even the Neanderthals, back before we were here as Homo sapiens, um, they buried their dead ceremoniously. We know this from archaeological digs. We know this from so many different ways. They didn't just walk off from their dead. They ceremoniously buried them, and with artifacts that would be carried over into the next life. So they knew this as well. This is something that we know at the core of our being. But once you truly accept that fact, truly accept it, there is so much freedom. Think about it. So much freedom. So much release. Once you take it into yourself and you own that fact and you own that belief that your soul is immortal, it's like a ton of bricks getting taken off your shoulders. So many of the frustrations and sadnesses of this temporal life just go away. They don't mean anything. Water off a duck's back, I like to say. Doesn't matter. Sometimes when people are stressed out, and I remind myself of it too, sometimes when people are stressed out, I look to them, I say, okay, it does seem like a big problem right now, but will it be such a big problem in 200 years? They're like, well, no. Well, why is it a problem now? Why is it an issue now? Fully accepting this fact, fully accepting the fact that your soul is immortal, that your body will die, but your soul is immortal, is a game changer, is a complete and total game changer. Because if you understand this, if you've accepted that and you feel it and you know it, what is there in this life that you can possibly fear? Now, almost everyone I know, says they believe that the soul is immortal. But how many of us really believe it down deep inside of ourselves? How many have not taken ownership of that fact? Most everyone fears death. That's the biggest fear of anyone I hear. They're afraid to die. Well, why? You can't get out of it. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. Face it. You're gonna die. Everyone, everything in the material world will die. Even the mountains are not exempt from that. They erode away and they go back down. It is an absolute inevitability. You cannot escape it. Now, I'm going to repeat myself here, okay? God did not botch the job. She's not capable of botching the job. Physical death is certainly not a mistake. It's not a disease. It is exactly as it was always meant to be. Death is not an end to life, but merely a change. Without death, there can be no rebirth. In fact, without death, there can be no life. Because all living organisms feed on death for their sustenance. Sorry about that. Sustenance. This is true of all living things. Every living thing feeds on death. It's an absolute fact. I challenge you to tell me one living organism that does not use or feed on death of some sort for its sustenance. Of some sort. Death and decay is always there in the living. Now, we see a cycle of death and rebirth throughout all of nature. We see it in the trees, the cycles of the season. We see it with the cycle of the moon. We see it with the rising and the setting of the sun. Everything shows this cycle of birth, death, rebirth. It's a cycle. Why would we be any different? Now, rebirth, even with us, will always follow death. Now, I'm not going to get into a huge theological discussion talking about how I feel about being judged on one life for an eternal reward or punishment. But consider this. What could a normal person do? The average Joe out on the street, the average person do in one life, good or bad, that could even possibly justify either an eternal reward or eternal punishment? I believe that the God who created this world, our mother, was and is practical and thoughtful. I cannot and will not see her as a vain or self-indulgent God. I refuse to believe that she went to all the trouble of creating all of this beauty and all of this surroundings and all this synchronicity and all these cycles and everything around us just to set us up, to test us over one lifetime, to see if we will either be eternally rewarded or eternally punished. I don't see it. Now, to most pagans, the forms of our gods are not literal. Some of us, some pagans believe that the gods are actually literal, physical beings. But for the most of us, we see God, or the different gods, as ways for us to help our tiny little minds, our limited minds, to understand at some level the vast and so eternally complex nature of God. You'll see and you'll hear the analogy of the diamond so many times. It's been overused, but it's very good. Consider God to be like a diamond, and all the shiny little facets on it to be the different visions we have of God. Each facet is a part of God, can show us what parts of God are, but they're not the entirety. We can't comprehend the entirety. Our tiny little minds won't allow it. Now, we believe, or some of us believe, because the pagan umbrella is so large, and I really don't want to offend anybody by saying that all pagans believe this, because that's not necessarily true. We believe that life and death are like her right and left hand. Life and death have been Isis and Osiris, Horus and Set, Ishtar and Tammuz, Persephone and Hades, many, many, many more throughout history. They're locked in an eternal struggle. Cycles. Cycles. Life, death, rebirth. The simple fact is this. We live, we die, and we live again. And the cycle repeats itself. Wash, rinse, repeat. It keeps going. Now that, my friends, that is a reason to create such a beautiful universe. Think about it. I invite your questions. I invite your comments. I invite your slams, or whatever you want to call it. All the people around me always hear me say, okay guys, it's time for moans, groans, gripes, bitches, and complaints. Let me have it. Tell me what you're thinking. Let's talk about it. Remember, this is just me talking. So, take what I say, not with a grain of salt, but use the whole blasted block of salt. I don't want you to think like me. I just want you to think. So, keep tuning in. Keep listening to what I've got to say. May change my mind. Who knows? My mind's been changed several times. I am not afraid to let you know that. We're constantly changing. We're constantly evolving. We're constantly growing. Because the day that I stop growing is the day you'll see my name in the obituary column, at least in this life. So keep checking on my different ventures. Check out my WordPress. Come to our website, our Shrine website. Let us know what you think. We've got a Facebook group now that you can become a member of. It's open to the public. Post whatever you want there. Please be respectful. I insist that you be respectful. Other than that, there are no more things that we require. Just be respectful. You don't have to agree. Be respectful. All right? Everybody, take care of you. And in all things, may you blessed be.